Wait, Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie already finished filming, and now is starting again? That sounds like a red flag, right? But hold up, let's actually unpack what's happening here, because this isn't nearly as dramatic as it sounds. And honestly, it might even be a smart move. Pause. Alright, here's why a few weeks of additional photography probably isn't a crisis for Netflix's biggest fantasy gamble yet. So first off, the headlines say cameras are rolling again at Shepperton Studios for The Magician's Nephew, 6 months after principal photography wrapped. But here's the key detail everyone's overlooking: this isn't reshoots. Repeat, not reshoots. If you're picturing Jeff Bridges redoing a monologue or a CGI lion getting a total overhaul, you're thinking of reshoots. This is additional photography, which is like adding sprinkles to a cake that's already baked. It's tiny tweaks, not structural changes. The Lord of the Rings did this before every single movie. They'd pop back for a week to grab a close-up they forgot or just a scene's lighting. That's not a disaster, it's just good filmmaking. But here's what's fascinating to me: the principal cast isn't involved. No Narnia web sources, no main actors. Which immediately makes me think this is about visual effects, those little magical details that probably needed final adjustments once the editors saw the full cut. Imagine realizing in post-production that Aslan's mane doesn't shimmer quite right in a specific scene, or that the White Witch's wand needs an extra sparkle. You don't call Liam Neeson back for that. You send a stand-in, a stunt double, or just reshoot the empty set with the VFX team. It's nitpicky, not catastrophic. Now, I'll admit, some fans are side-eyeing this because Jeff Snyder dropped the line about the film not testing as well as Netflix hoped. But wait, if the streaming giant was truly panicking, wouldn't they delay the release? Instead, they're sticking to February 2027. That tells me they're confident in the core product but just fine-tuning the polish. Think of it like a car company delaying a model's release by 2 weeks to fix a glitchy infotainment system. The bones are solid, but the bells and whistles need tweaking. What's wild here is how this reflects Netflix's evolving approach to blockbusters. They've burned money before on movies that flopped. Remember that $200 million sci-fi disaster that no one watched? But here's the thing, Gerwig's Narnia isn't a random gamble. She's the author behind Barbie, a film that made studio execs weep with gratitude. They're trusting her process. If she says, "Hey, we need 2 more weeks to make this perfect," Netflix is listening. Contrast that with, say, David Ayer's Suicide Squad reshoot nightmares, where executives force changes on a film they didn't trust. This feels collaborative, not chaotic. But let me throw a curveball: what if this additional photography is actually about legacy? The original Narnia books are a cultural touchstone. If Gerwig is taking an extra week to nail a single shot, a perfect frame of the wardrobe glowing in the dark, or that first glimpse of Cair Paravel, it could define how this story lives in the public imagination for decades. Would you rather a rushed, good enough version, or a slightly delayed moment that becomes iconic? Personally, I'll take the latter. The Lord of the Rings still dominates pop culture because they obsess over those tiny details. Maybe that's the lesson here. So what's the real takeaway? This isn't a sign of a troubled production, it's a masterclass in how to handle a legacy franchise in 2026. Trust the director, prioritize the vision, and don't be afraid to spend 2 extra weeks making magic feel magical. Now I'm curious, what single moment from The Magician's Nephew do you think needs that obsessive attention? The creation of Narnia itself? The first roar of Aslan? Drop your thoughts below, let's geek out over the details worth waiting for.